So I'd like to talk a little bit about why people come. Remember, people come because they're feeling something they don't want to feel, they're doing something they don't want to do, that sort of thing, right? And the emotions are really the drivers. As far as I'm concerned, I look for the emotions. And it's funny what we do with them. I mean, people think, for example, like, emotions are no good and it's bad stuff, right? But I honestly believe that all emotions have some value, although sometimes they just get misapplied a little bit. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Years ago, I was still at school, and this was when my brother and I were still at the age where there's conflict, right? From time to time. So one night, I remember this was on a weekend, it was like a Saturday morning. I had one of those really vivid dreams you have as kids because your conscious mind doesn't really interfere that much. And in this dream, for whatever reason, I don't even know why, my brother was teasing me mercilessly. I mean, I was so wound up that when I actually woke up in the morning, I knew it was a dream, but I was so annoyed with my brother that I was like in a huff with him all day. And he's like, what's going on here, right? Now, here's the crazy thing. Did he deserve it? No. Did my anger do anything to him? Anything useful or beneficial? No. But it's doing something to me, right? So who's the only person being impacted by that emotion at that point? Me, right? But anger does have a purpose. Anger has a very important purpose. And the question is, how do we get the useful things out of the things that we're doing? For example, why are we afraid? I mean, not all the time, right? But to protect you, right? Right? Those animals that have no fear are extinct. Because either they breed really quickly, or there's something that's going to, they go like, oh, this is, I wonder what these big things... So fear has a purpose. The problem is when fear gets misapplied. To use the old analogy, crossing the street, right? There is time to be afraid when that juggernaut is just honking its horn right up in your face. And there's times when you just cross the road and you're okay with it because there's no need for it. So our job is to basically create balance. It's not to take anything away. It's not to shut anything away and stop it. It's just to create natural balance again so the organism, our organism, the mechanism can actually function the way it should do. The same is true, for example, of sadness. Sadness is an expression of loss, right? And it's appropriate. Not if you do it for 10 years, but for a while, it's important to grieve. You let go. When I sold my car, I grieved. I really, really did, right? But it's a natural emotion. It's important. Same thing of anger. Why would anger exist? Protect you from what? Precisely, right? Anger is there to remind you that there is a boundary and someone is really taking the mickey. They're overstepping, they're walking all over you, they're using like a doormat, and you get a spurt of energy. Have anyone here ever done anything in anger that you would never have dared to do if you weren't angry, and actually was helpful? Right? So it happens. So anger is kind of a motivator to kind of push back, reestablish your boundaries, and get things done that you might otherwise not have the psychological strength, shall we say, to get done. But here's the thing. If you stay angry after the event, you've done this, right? You've pushed back, your boundaries is established, and now you carry on with the anger. Great. Have a nice life. Who's being hurt? The person that you've now pushed over the boundary and said, this is it? No, because you've done that already. You've finished. The job is done. So what's it doing? Is it helping? Right? So one of the things we do when we talk about clearing emotions is not about eliminating emotions, not about destroying emotions, and not about making anything go away. It's about going back to a natural point of balance, letting them do what they need to do, and then letting go. Classic example was with Dave and his cats, right? There will be times when it's appropriate for Dave to experience the emotion of fear around cats, right? Big ones with big sharp teeth coming into the car from the safari park, run, or whatever needs to happen, right? Even an alley cat, a stray, and it might have, it looks a little bit like it's manky and has something that may end up killing you infected with some viral disease or something, I'd stay clear. I love cats, but there's no way I'm touching that, right? So it's absolutely appropriate to still have fear around some cats, just not all of them and not as a default, right? I think we have a question here.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about this all night, and I was wondering why, or would it be appropriate to treat someone who had like a fear of cats by trying to put them in empathy with the cat's emotions? For instance, the cat being possibly afraid of the human being?
Sure, that's a possibility. Just bear in mind that sometimes it can intensify the experience if you're actually inside the thing you fear most. Some people might not be able to handle that. But with other people, it can pop them out, absolutely. So that actually may also be something you want to do after you've taken care of some of the initial emotion as a part of creating empathy. By all means. The key thing is, you'll know pretty quickly if it's working or not. And you may well have to go down the route of... Oh, so close. Almost there, right? So if that happens, you know how to get out of it, and there are times when it could be appropriate. So you've got to trust your instinct on that one. And just because you happen to say you love cats and they don't, you don't have to make people love cats, right? Do you love cats right now, Dave?
No, but just the thought of me that experience is actually making me smile.
Exactly. So it's a positive experience, but it doesn't love cats. So our aim isn't to turn them into us, to like, I love cats, but I don't know, he hasn't going to be like me, right? I just want him to have choice again, to have balance again.
Yeah, I just thought it might be empowering for the person.
Could well be. Absolutely. And here's the thing. I can't say a hard yes or hard no, because in some situations it'll be absolutely appropriate. In other ones it's like, no, you better not. So you've got to fit it to the context. And if nothing else, all we're doing here is creating situations, experiences, so you realize some things work better than others, and how to fit what you're doing into the context of what you're trying to get. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. So, we're really getting to the point now where we want to create balance back in people's lives. It's a useful emotion, you don't want it to get away, but you want to create the sense where they can have it when they need it, and then go away when they don't. Because otherwise, who ends up suffering? The person, right? If I'm angry because of my boundaries is being overstepped, but I'm carrying on that anger whilst I'm in an airplane 2,000 miles away, does that hurt the person that's overstepped the boundaries? Right? If I'm angry whilst I'm driving a car 2 hours after I've had a fight with someone, does that hurt the other person? Not even forget even hurting, because that's just like the whole revenge thing is a bit silly anyway. Just think about the whole idea of what's it doing to your boundaries. Does that help establish your boundary even further? No. Once you've decided it, you do it, or you don't, as the case may be, and then you move on. The only thing that gets hurt is yourself, because your nervous system gets weakened. You cannot maintain the sensation of anger, fear, hatred, or anything like that for a long period of time without your own nervous system becoming weakened. You know this, because you've been through intense periods of time, and what happens to your health? Right? It depresses your immune system, your ability to fight things off gets reduced, and if nothing else, your quality of life, what happens to that? Right? So regression work really is about strong emotions, strong negative emotions, pulling the plug on them, but pulling the plug does not mean removing them. It just means creating balance again so they have a healthy relationship. You don't have to love cats, but you can feel good about the experiences you had with them. You don't have to hate cats, but you can know that at the appropriate time, it's okay to be afraid and run like crazy, because that's going to protect you in some way. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're aiming at. Does that kind of make sense to everyone?